Mining is the extraction of valuable minerals with other geological materials from the earth crust, usually from lode, vein or body, seam, reef or placer deposits. These deposits constitute a mineralized package that is of economic interest to the prospective miner. Mining is required to obtain essential commodities that cannot possibly grow via agricultural processes or created artificially in a factory or laboratory. Mining of stones and metals has been a well-recognized human occupation since the prehistoric era. The economic importance of mining cannot be overemphasized and will continue to be an important support to the economy of any country. Aside from boosting gross domestic product, it encourages high rates of employment opportunities and equally thrives to ensure that the number of entrepreneurs in the country is increased tremendously. Joining me on the show is the Minister of Solid Minerals, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Dele Alake. Is also a Nigerian journalist, activist, and a technocrat, a former Commissioner of Information and Strategy of Lagos from 1999 to 2007. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'd like to start this way. You kindly elaborate on key components of your transformation agenda for the solid mineral sector and how it aims to reposition the entire sector.
Thank you very much, Tolu. In my maiden press conference, I did unfold a 7-point agenda, actually contingent upon the renewed hope agenda of the Tinubu administration. And you know, the philosophical ground norm of the Tinubu administration is the vision of efficient, transformational, and effective governance. And like it's no longer business as usual in the country. The business of government is the business of everybody. And the philosophy behind this mantra is that we can no longer afford to be lethargic in Nigeria. We can no longer afford to be immersed in inertia. You will agree with me that Nigeria has been living a very permissive life hitherto. We have been quite indulgent because of our monocultural economy. And we've been having free flow of revenue, money from the oil sector. And this has, very unfortunately, made us to shift attention from those necessary and critical sectors of the economy, like the solid minerals, like the agricultural sector, even industrialization, to the detriment of the progress of the country. And so, with the emergence of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, there is a renewed focus on the solid minerals sector as a critical factor of progress and development for the country. In the first instance, you and I would agree that the oil in international affairs is fading out. One, because hydrocarbons, fossil fuels are no longer fashionable because of the drive for climate change. There's been so much pollution in the world through the use of hydrocarbons. And so there is a global campaign against hydrocarbons and for reduction in the global pollution. Now, green energy is a fashionable thing now, and we have an abundance of green energy potentials in the solid mineral sector. But critically, the fundamental reason why we are shifting focus, or why this country is shifting attention to the solid mineral sector, is for survival, is for economic survival. Because this hydrocarbon, the oil, is fading out, if we do not shift attention to exploit our God-given abundance of solid minerals, Nigeria will be in economic dire straits down the line. So for our own societal progress, survival, we have to shift attention to the mineral sector. Secondly, to also contribute our own quota to the campaign against pollution, to the campaign for climate change. And that is really a very fundamental reason as well. So, in furtherance of all of this vision, I did unfold a 7-point agenda, some of which are the establishment of the Nigerian Mineral Corporation, which will harness the sector, all the resources of the sector, will regulate, will operate, and would hold equity on behalf of Nigeria, so that the resources, the revenue that are being carted away by either unscrupulous people, illegal operators, and the like, will be stopped and harnessed and judiciously expended for the benefit of Nigerians. Secondly, we have to engage in big data gathering. Without the generation of big data and efficient data, we cannot market our solid mineral potentials effectively in the global market, because investors, the big investors, want to know what you have, where those things are located, and if possible, the quantity, estimated quantity of what you... These are the factors that will generate their interest to bring their hard-earned money to come and invest in our country. And when they come to invest, they create employment. There is local value added, and there is beneficiation for the host communities, as well as the country's contribution to the country's GDP in general. We also have the campaign against illegal mining. Now, illegal mining is one of the very nefarious activities that have been actually shortchanging the development of this mineral sector in Nigeria. So while I unfolded this 7-point agenda, I did give a 30-day ultimatum to illegal miners to form themselves into cooperatives so that they can be formalized and be structured and be dealt with legitimately by the regulatory authority, which is the federal government. Now, that ultimatum was not meant to be a punitive measure. And I've been saying this because there has been some, misconception about that ultimatum. A section or some sections of the country felt that they were being targeted. No, that's not the motive. The motive is to actually help these so-called illegal miners, to bring them into the fold, into a formal fold and structure, so that they themselves can benefit more from legitimate activities, so that they can also be protected. But as long as they remain illegal operators, they are subject to apprehension, to harassment, and their operation will not be maximally utilized. We're also in the process of setting up a special surveillance task force against illegal mining, illegal operators, and even those operating at shortchanging the country, because we have noticed a number of operators who under-declare their volume of operation and extraction, and they take our rocks, our minerals away from this country, without paying the adequate and necessary royalties, taxes, levies, and the like to the appropriate authorities. So we are creating a surveillance task force that will use or will be dependent majorly on technology. We are employing the use of technology to aid security in that sector. We are also engaging in the community mining empowerment project, because these host communities, since they host all these minerals, they are stakeholders and they need to be engaged to reduce friction between the operators and the local communities. So we are seriously engaging, and we are in the process of establishing even the civil society, groups to be part of this process of engaging the local communities. We are also vigorously pursuing international investment promotion. You recall that I was in Australia recently. Yeah. I presented a paper on the solid mineral sector of Nigeria, marketing our solid mineral potentials to the outside world. And that has generated quite substantial interest in our solid mineral sector. In fact, one of the high points of that visit was my meeting with the Australian mining minister And I struck a deal with him to come to Nigeria and train our mining professionals so that they will develop the capacity not only to operate, to explore, but also to determine which minerals we have. For instance, it took us to get to Australia to discover that the lithium, which is very high in international mineral market today, the lithium that we have in Nigeria also contains nickel. Whereas those who extract all of these things are lithium away under declare. They do not tell the customs people that these nickels, these lithiums also contain nickel and other associated minerals. So with the training deal that I've struck with the Australian authorities, our professionals here will be, developed so much in capacity as to be able to determine what type of minerals that are being taken out, therefore increasing the revenue accruable to the federal government and to Nigeria at large. We're also generally creating the enabling environment for both local and foreign investors in order to judiciously, efficiently, and more proficiently explore, extract, and sell these minerals. We have, for instance, a surfeit of these minerals in Nigeria. We have lithium, which hosted pegmatite rocks. We have graphite. We have rare elements, rare earth minerals, critical for wind turbines and electric motors. We have platinum group of minerals. We have nickel. We have zinc. We have gold. We have zinc that is vital to onshore and offshore power generation. We have a lot of minerals in Nigeria. In fact, it may interest you to know that there is hardly any state in this country that does not have a particular type of solid mineral in its location. And this is a lot of revenue for this country when properly harnessed.
Interesting breakdown of the roadmap, Honorable Minister. But let's move forward and get some specific measures. You talked about security, and some would say that illegal mining, in some cases, in some states, swelling insecurity. So what really would the Mine Surveillance Security Task Force undertake to address the issue of security, enhance it, and monitoring the industry in totality?
In the first instance, when you use only personnel, security personnel or security agents, to go after illegal operators, it's very difficult, it's very problematic. Number one, the knowledge of the local terrain, may not be readily available to them. Number two is the fact that Nigeria is a vast country. We have a very vast land area. So it is very, very difficult for the security personnel to pinpoint the exact location of these nefarious activities. So this is why we are injecting technology into the security architecture. And the kind of technology we are injecting will enable us to actually locate the spot where these things are being done, where these illegal operations are going on. And then we can now deploy the personnel straight to a specific location, rather than the current situation where they just keep roaming all over the place, trying to locate where the nefarious activities take place. We are also engaging the host communities and the local people because they have, tremendous knowledge of their terrain. We are engaging them to also be partners in this security effort, so that they can guide the personnel to specific, after the artificial intelligence that we're employing, locate the spot. Then the local people will guide our security personnel to identify that place without rigmaroling all around the place. So we're also strengthening the security apparatus. It will be interagency task force. It will involve the army, the police, the civil defense authorities, the local people themselves, the host communities. It will involve all arms of the security agencies. The Office of the National Security Advisor is also involved. I have had discussions with the Chief of Army Staff, with the National Security Advisor, and the IG of Police. In fact, about 15 minutes or 20 minutes ago, before I came on here, I was talking to the IG of Police on this same issue. So all efforts are being put in place to ensure that we give teeth to this new security architecture that we are putting in place.
You also mentioned the comprehensive review of mining licenses. Like you said, 30-day grace. But can you share more details of this process and its objectives? Let me ask that way.
I did say that measure, that 30-day ultimatum, was not meant to be a punitive measure. It's not punitive at all.
Okay.
Right. It's actually to help the illegal miners, to formalize them, bring them into a structure that they can be dealt with. In fact, that they can become bankable and to advance their trade or their operations, and then stop these illegal activities. Now, that 30-day, I did say that some people misconceived it. And in fact, because of pragmatism, and I've had a lot of pleas and all that from the various stakeholders pleading for more time for them to be able to, formalize themselves into cooperatives. So with regards to that, we have considered all of the pleas and the pragmatism involved in the dynamics of the whole sector. And we are now extending that ultimatum by another 30 days, after which there will be no reprieve for any infringement on the regulation.
Well, interested. Also, the challenges you highlighted, that's issues around geodata. Yes, data. That data you talked about, which is very necessary. Safety policies and intergovernmental coordination. We see a lot of meetings you've been having, even with governors, Nasarawa State, and we can go on and on. So what is happening? How are you trying to also make that help you actualize your aims and objectives for the ministry? That's intergovernmental coordination.
Yeah, before intergovernmental coordination, you did mention the big data generation that I enumerated. Yes, that is fundamental. If we are going to bring our mineral sector into global, attention and interest, we must generate the big data. Now, this data would not only tell us the specific or the types of minerals that are located in certain places, in certain spots of the country. They would also enable investors to determine the kind of exploration equipment that they need. And not only that, this data that we so generate must also be certified by internationally data certification agencies. So now when our generated data is certified by these agencies, international agencies, the international investors, even local investors too, will have confidence in our data that yes, this data or the series of data that we so generate are quite efficient and quite specific and can tell them exactly what to do, where to do, and how to do those things. Now, when we do all of this, and in fact, we will have to upload this data on our website, and the companies that, in fact, we would also extend the frontier by putting these things on the international stock exchange so that investors can have easy access to this data, and then be able to make informed decisions about how to invest in a solid mineral sector. Now, with regards to intergovernmental relations, I've seen a rush of state authorities making pronouncements on the minerals in their various states. Some have read about some saying some state governors banning mineral exploration and exploitation in their states. Now, ideally, if states observe that there are some infringements on the exploration or the mines in their states, it is not within their purview to make policy pronouncements on minerals in their states or in any part of Nigeria, because solid minerals belong in the exclusive legislative list of the Constitution. And the exclusive legislative list, we all know, is the federal government's affairs. The residual list is the state's affairs, while the concurrent list belongs to both parties, the federal and state. But solid minerals and all minerals, including oil, belong in the exclusive legislative section of the Constitution. Therefore, it is the prerogative of the federal government to regulate and determine the mode of operations and in all ramifications of that sector. So I'm using this platform to say categorically that no state has constitutional authority to make policy pronouncements on the minerals in their states or in any part of Nigeria. That is the exclusive preserve of the federal government through the Ministry of Solid Minerals. Now, if any state has any issues with the operators or with the exploration of minerals, it can make submissions to the federal government through the Ministry of Solid Minerals, and such cases will be looked into, or such reports will be investigated, and of course, action will be taken. But because of the peculiarities of that sector, we are also engaging the states. I've been talking to some of the state governors and exchanging ideas, and in some instances, educating and enlightening on the constitutional provisions, delineating the areas of authority of this sector vis-a-vis state and the federal. Now, we do not want to engage in any confrontation. That is not the motive, because we need an atmosphere of peace in this country to exploit judiciously our resources and ensure that we create employment and increase significantly our contribution to the gross domestic product of Nigeria. So in terms of intergovernmental relations, in fact, I've been talking to state governors, I've been talking to the chairman of the Governors Forum with a view to enlightening the members of the Nigerian Governors Forum as to their constitutional responsibilities and the limitations of their authorities with regards to the solid mineral sector. So all of these engagements are going on.
Interesting stuff. I'm also interested, and I'm sure Nigerians are interested, in the proposed Nigerian Solid Mineral Corporation. You also mentioned it then during the overview, and its role in revitalizing the mining sector.
That's right. We said that we are going to bring in the big players in the solid minerals industry.
We're glad to have you back. We still have the Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals with us. Honorable Minister, network issues along the line, we lost where you were making your submission with regards to the mining corporation. Yes, we lost a part of it. Maybe we would like you to just wrap up there so that we can continue with the conversation.
I did say before the network issue, yes, that the proposed Nigeria Mining Corporation, yes, is to be like an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, okay, for Nigeria to create an enabling environment for the judicious exploration, exploitation, and use of these very precious minerals that we have, a revenue source that we have, so that it can meaningfully contribute significantly to the GDP of Nigeria. And I did say that the structure will be slightly different from what we have in other sectors of the economy, of the Nigerian economy. The structure as proposed will be substantially private sector driven. And I did say that the federal government would own its equity, the private sector would own its equity, and the Nigerian people would also own equity. but it will be substantially private sector driven, so as to make it endure beyond any government, and so as to make it efficiently run, organized, and managed, so that it will be a legacy for Nigeria and for our children and children's children unborn, so that the significant contribution that we are envisaging for the country's GDP will be properly harnessed by this SPV. And it will stop the current haphazard exploration and exploitation of our solid mineral sector in Nigeria. Now, and I said that we will be elaborating on the modalities and the details as time goes on.
Interesting. Bringing in multilateral companies is something that business people would like to talk about, attracting investment in the mining industry. And of course, even the president is in the forefront of telling foreigners to bring in the investment into the country. So what more would we do to attract foreign investors into the solid mineral space specifically at this time? Ease of doing business and all of that is also on the front burner.
Very simple. First thing fundamentally is the security architecture that we are putting in place. Because I've met quite a number of foreign investors in Australia, in New York. I was with I presented a paper at the Corporate Council on Africa in New York as a sideline of the last hunger. And after my presentation, a number of foreign investors came around indicating their interest. But a common thread that ran through their concerns is the issue of security. And that is why we are taking security very seriously. That is why we are embarking on this establishment of the Special Surveillance Task Force, which would also be, we will infuse a lot of technology into it, and it will be security agency structure. Now, second one is the generation of the big data, because the foreign investors need efficient data to be able to make informed judgments on where to invest, how to invest, and what to invest on in terms of solid minerals. We are investing heavily, in data generation, moving ahead. And all of these combined have generated a tremendous interest in our solid mineral sector. And even today, after the Mining Week press conference, which I had about an hour ago, I've been having calls from a lot of foreign investors indicating their interest to come into Nigeria and invest. And once we have the big players in the industry, it will globalize the solid mineral sector or industry of Nigeria. And that will mean a lot of employment creation, a lot of wealth generation, and a lot of local beneficiation for the host communities, for the states, and for everybody in general.
Almost finally, Honorable Minister, now striking a balance between regulatory responsibility and promoting a business-friendly environment is what some business people are also talking about. How do you intend to strike a balance this?
Your network is not very good. I didn't get that.
Okay, I was asking you, I said, how do you strike a balance between regulatory responsibilities and promoting a business-friendly environment in the mining industry?
It's very simple. Once you put in the regulatory framework, which we have been doing, and we are continuing doing it, and we are giving teeth to these regulations, guiding the management of the operation of the industry. Of course, the investors also want regulation.
Yes. There's
no investor that wants to operate in a chaotic environment, in an environment that they are not sure of. One of the incentives we are even giving proposing to the foreign investors, even local investors, is a lot of waivers. For instance, the equipment to explore solid mineral is very, very expensive. And these investors have to bring in this expensive equipment into Nigeria. So we are throwing waivers, a percentage of custom duties and levies and all of that, in order to encourage more substantial foreign investors coming into the sector. And so they also want a very efficient regulatory framework so that there is order or orderliness in their operating environment. There's no investor that wants to throw his money, or her money in an unstable environment, in a chaotic situation. So we need to ensure the security of the operating environment, the efficiency and efficacy of the regulatory framework, and the incentives to the investors. All of this combined, I'm sure, is going to make us globalize our solid mineral sector and judiciously harness this God-given resource that is very critical and very vital to the economic survival of Nigeria.
As business people, they always believe that it will get to a point of naira and kobo. But what will you tell Nigerians? What should we expect? Short, medium, and long term before we start to get naira and kobo? Of course, dollars from the solid minerals sector.
Of course, any investment has a gestation period.
Yes.
So, when we are putting in place all of the fundamentals that will ensure these investors not only come, but have an unfettered operating environment, a secure operating environment, and the capacity to be able to repatriate their earnings without jeopardizing our local economy. All of these are being worked out. In the short run, within the the last quarter of this year, all of this will be done. And then in the first to second quarter of next year, we'll be expecting real operations to begin. And then, of course, money will start coming in to Nigeria. Now, right now, while we are also strengthening and giving teeth to the Security Surveillance Task Force, is that currently a lot of operators are cutting away huge or humongous amount of resources from Nigeria. All of this will be stopped. And when we stop the gaping loopholes and the leakages, plugging the leakages and blocking the nefarious activities, revenue will accrue, more revenue will accrue to the purse of the federal government, and there will be more significant contribution to the gross domestic product. And of course, don't forget, I did say in New York, a conservative estimate of value of our solid minerals in Nigeria is over $700 billion. Imagine when we put in place all of these measures, how much will come to the coffers of the federal government. I can tell you, the solid mineral sector is the next oil of Nigeria, and we are putting everything in place to ensure the judicious and efficient harnessing of this God-given resource.
Honorable Minister, we hope to have you in at least to monitor and evaluate some of all of these expectations as we move on. Dr. Dele Alake, thank you so much for your time. Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals, Federal Republic of Nigeria. We appreciate your time on the show. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.